Welcome to Stories of HFY, your ultimate destination for thrills, adventure, and entertainment. Hit subscribe and turn on the bell to join us on this epic journey. Let's create unforgettable moments together. A lone lion, his mane golden as the sun's rays, stood in the heart of a vast ancient cave. This was no ordinary cavern. It bore the whispers of time, its walls etched with the scars of centuries. Light streamed in from a jagged opening high above, piercing through the shadows and falling on the lion's proud form like a celestial spotlight. His amber eyes glimmered with both wisdom and defiance, as if they had witnessed the rise and fall of countless eras. This lion was no ordinary beast. He was the guardian of echoes, the last sentinel of a forgotten legacy. The cave was more than just a home, it was a gallery of the lion's life and lineage. Framed paintings adorned the rocky walls, each depicting scenes of majestic lions roaming golden savannas, basking under fiery sunsets, or locked in fierce battles for survival. These were no mere decorations, they were relics of a bygone age, a testament to the lion's bloodline that had once ruled the wild with unmatched grace and might. The paintings glowed faintly as though imbued with the spirits of those immortalized within them. Outside, the world had changed. The roaring rivers that once carved through the land had become trickling streams. The once endless herds of antelope had dwindled, their migration paths disrupted by fences and machines. The forest that guarded the cave's entrance now stood fragile, its ancient trees struggling to survive under the relentless assault of time and man's ambition. The lion had seen it all, each passing year carving a deeper sense of melancholy into his heart. Yet he remained steadfast, bound to his sacred duty of safeguarding the legacy of his kind. As the light shifted, illuminating new corners of the cave, the lion moved with a grace that belied his size. His movements were purposeful, almost ritualistic. He approached a particular painting, a depiction of two lions standing atop a cliff, their forms silhouetted against a blood-red sky. These were his ancestors, the founders of the bloodline, whose strength and courage had birthed legends. Beneath the painting lay a small, intricately carved chest. The lion gazed at it with a mix of reverence and sorrow. Within the chest lay the ember of remembrance, a glowing shard said to hold the collective memories of his kind. It was a relic of immense power, one that could call forth the echoes of the past and breathe life into their tales. The lion lowered his head, his whiskers brushing against the chest. A deep rumble echoed from his throat, a sound not of rage but of longing. For years, he had resisted the temptation to open the chest, fearing the weight of the memories within. Yet, as he gazed upon the fading light filtering through the cave, he felt the pull of destiny. The world outside was forgetting the majesty of his kind, their stories fading into myths and whispers. Perhaps it was time to awaken the echoes and remind the world of what had been lost. With a slow, deliberate motion, the lion nudged the chest open. A blinding light spilled forth, engulfing the cave in a radiant glow. The paintings on the walls came alive, their scenes shifting and swirling as though the spirits within had been awakened. The cave resonated with a symphony of roars, footsteps, and the rustling of grasslands. The lion closed his eyes, letting the memories wash over him. He saw himself as a cub, chasing fireflies under a starlit sky. He saw his father, a towering figure of strength, leading a pride through uncharted territories. He saw battles fought, victories won, and sacrifices made. The memories were not just his own, they were the collective soul of his kind. As the glow faded, the cave fell silent once more, but the lion was forever changed. His amber eyes now burned with renewed purpose. He had seen the strength and resilience of his lineage, their indomitable will to survive and thrive despite the odds. He knew what he had to do. The lion stepped toward the cave's entrance, his powerful frame illuminated by the setting sun. He would not allow his kind to fade into obscurity. He would carry their legacy forward, ensuring that their tales would echo through the ages. As he emerged from the shadows, the world outside seemed to hold its breath, as if sensing the reawakening of a legend. The guardian of echoes had risen, and his roar would soon shake the earth. As the lion emerged from the cave, the golden light of the setting sun painted his mane in hues of fire, turning him into a figure of awe and power. The wind carried the faint scent of grass and earth, and with it, memories of the land as it once was, boundless, untamed, and alive with the hum of countless creatures. But now the savanna stretched in quiet desolation. He could see the remnants of human interference, tracks carved into the soil, fencing slicing through the horizon, and distant structures that marred the purity of the landscape. Yet the lion did not falter. His ancestors had thrived in a world of predators and prey, of chaos and balance. If they could endure, so could he. With purposeful strides, the lion descended the rocky outcrop leading to the savanna. The ground beneath his paws was dry and cracked, but it still held the pulse of life. He paused near a withered tree, its branches clawing at the sky like skeletal fingers. Beneath its shade, a small herd of gazelles huddled, their frames frail and their eyes wide with fear. The lion did not move to hunt them. Instead, he watched, his gaze steady and calm. He could feel their fear, but he also felt the shared bond of survival. They were all part of this ancient cycle, and now they too were victims of the same creeping shadow of change. Night fell swiftly, draping the world in a blanket of stars. The lion turned his gaze upward, tracing the constellations his ancestors had once known. Each star seemed brighter, almost guiding him toward a purpose he couldn't yet fully understand. A distant howl pierced the silence, followed by another. The lion's ears perked and his muscles tensed. It was not the call of his kind, but that of intruders, wild dogs, scavengers emboldened by the thinning numbers of the great predators. The lion's lips curled into a silent snarl. They had no place here, not in this sacred land. He moved swiftly, his paws silent against the earth. His approach was a masterclass in stealth, honed by generations of hunters. When he reached the source of the noise, he saw them, a pack of wild dogs circling the remains of a young zebra. Their snarls and yips filled the air as they tore into the carcass. The lion stepped forward, his presence a thunderous declaration even in silence. The dogs froze, their heads snapping toward him. For a moment the air crackled with tension. Then, with one low rumbling growl, the lion sent them scattering into the night. He did not take the zebra for himself. Hunger gnawed at his belly, but this was not a time for indulgence. This was a time for re-establishing order, for reminding the world of the balance that had once been. The lion turned back toward the cave, but his path was illuminated by the pale glow of moonlight. He had no pride, no companions to stand beside him. Yet he felt the weight of generations walking with him, their spirits stirred by the ember of remembrance. In the days that followed, the lion's presence began to ripple across the land. Other animals, those that had long lived in the shadows of fear, started to reappear. A family of warthogs emerged from their burrows. Birds, once silent, began to sing again. Even the dry riverbeds showed signs of life, as the faint trickle of water hinted at rains yet to come. The lion roamed tirelessly, his movements weaving a tapestry of hope and resilience across the savanna. But not all noticed the change. Far beyond the horizon, in the world of humans, the lion's resurgence was seen as a threat. Farmers spoke of a great beast stalking their lands, of a predator too powerful to ignore. Whispers grew into rumors, and soon hunters were sent to find the lion. Their rifles gleamed under the sun, their boots crushing the fragile remnants of the wilderness. The lion was no stranger to danger, but these men carried tools far deadlier than the claws and teeth of any rival he had faced. When the hunters approached, the lion felt their presence long before they could see him. He had learned to read the land, to feel its subtle vibrations and heed its warnings. He knew he could not fight them all, but he also knew he could not run. To retreat was to abandon the legacy he had sworn to protect. He waited in the tall grass, his golden mane blending with the dry stalks, his body coiled like a spring. The hunters moved cautiously, their rifles raised and their voices low. One of them muttered about the bounty they would earn, another about the glory of taking down a legend. They did not understand the sacredness of what they sought to destroy. As they drew closer, the lion's muscles tightened. He would not strike out of malice but out of necessity. He would fight not for himself, but for the echoes of his kind, for the countless lives that depended on the balance he represented. When the confrontation came, it was swift and brutal. The lion moved with the speed and precision of a predator born to rule. He roared, a sound that shook the air and froze the hunters in their tracks. In the chaos that followed, the lion's strength and cunning overwhelmed their arrogance. He left them alive but broken, their weapons scattered and their will shattered. They fled, vowing never to return. The lion stood alone once more, his breath heavy but his spirit unbroken. He knew the fight was far from over. More would come, with greater numbers and deadlier weapons. But the land had seen his defiance, and it had begun to stir. The rains returned, the rivers swelled, and the earth grew green again. The animals that had once fled began to reclaim their places, drawn by the lion's presence and the resurgence of the ancient cycle. The guardian of echoes had become more than a protector. He was a beacon of hope in a world on the brink of forgetting. And as the lion roared into the vast, endless night, his voice carried not just the power of one, but the strength of all who had come before him. His legacy was alive, and through him it would endure. The days turned into weeks, and the lion continued his ceaseless patrol of the land. Each corner of the savanna bore his presence. His scent, his paw prints, his roar, reminding every creature, great and small, that balance had returned. Yet, as the land began to heal, the lion felt the weight of something greater pressing upon him. It was not just the savanna that needed him, it was the memory of the wild, the soul of nature itself, that demanded his strength. The rains came in earnest, drenching the earth and filling the rivers to their brims. Life began to flourish once more. Herds of wildebeest returned, their numbers growing with each passing season. Birds filled the skies in swirling clouds, their songs echoing across the open plains. Predators and prey alike reclaimed their roles in the ancient dance of survival. The lion watched it all with a sense of quiet pride, knowing that his presence had rekindled something that had been slipping away. Yet, he also understood that this fragile harmony could not endure without vigilance. One night, under a moon so full it seemed to light the world in silver, the lion ventured deeper into the heart of the savanna than he ever had before. He was drawn by a feeling, a whisper carried on the wind that spoke of something ancient and profound. He passed through fields of tall grass that shimmered like liquid gold under the moonlight, his paws silent on the damp earth. The air grew cooler, tinged with a scent he couldn't place, a mix of earth, stone, and something timeless. At the edge of a dense forest, the lion paused. Before him stood an ancient tree, its trunk massive and gnarled, its branches reaching high into the heavens. This was no ordinary tree. Its bark was etched with strange symbols, spiraling patterns that seemed to glow faintly in the moonlight. Around its roots, the earth was littered with bones, not of prey but of lions. This was the resting place of his ancestors, the sacred grove, a place whispered of in the echoes of memory but never before seen by his kind in living memory. The lion stepped forward cautiously, his powerful frame dwarfed by the majesty of the tree. As he approached, the symbols on the bark began to pulse with light, as if recognizing him. A low hum filled the air, a sound that resonated deep within his chest. He stood before the tree, his head bowed in reverence, and suddenly the world around him seemed to shift. The forest faded, replaced by a vast expanse of stars. The lion found himself standing on an endless plain, the ground beneath him glowing faintly as if it were made of stardust. In the distance, figures began to emerge, lions, dozens of them, their forms shimmering with ethereal light. These were the spirits of his ancestors, the guardians of the past, summoned by the tree's ancient magic. One of them stepped forward, a massive lion with a mane that seemed to burn like fire. His eyes, deep and knowing, locked onto the living lion's gaze. "You have done well, child," the spirit said, his voice a deep rumble that seemed to echo through the very fabric of the cosmos. "You have restored balance to the land, but your journey is far from over." The lion listened, his heart pounding with both awe and anticipation. The spirit spoke of the ember of remembrance, of its power and the responsibility it carried. "The ember is not just a relic of the past, it is a bridge to the future," the spirit continued. "Through it, the stories of our kind can live on, even as the world changes. But it must be protected, for there are those who would seek to use its power for their own gain." The lion understood. The hunters, the fences, the machines, they were not just threats to the land but to the very essence of what the ember represented. The spirit stepped closer, his form towering over the lion. You are the last guardian of echoes, but you will not always stand alone. Others will come, drawn by your strength and the legacy you uphold. Together, you will ensure that our stories are never forgotten. As the spirit finished speaking, the other ancestors roared in unison, a sound so powerful it seemed to shake the stars themselves. The lion felt the weight of their strength and resolve flowing into him, filling him with a renewed sense of purpose. The starlit plain began to fade, and the lion found himself back in the sacred grove, the symbols on the tree now glowing faintly as if watching over him. The lion returned to the savanna with a new mission. He began to move with even greater purpose, seeking out others like him, creatures who understood the importance of balance and the need to protect the land. He found allies in unexpected places. A wise old elephant who had seen the rise and fall of countless generations, a swift and cunning cheetah who became his scout, and even a pair of young lion cubs, orphaned but full of fire and potential. Together they formed a new kind of pride, one bound not by blood but by a shared purpose. The lion taught the cubs the ways of the wild, passing on the lessons of his ancestors. He showed them the sacred grove, sharing the stories of their lineage and the power of the ember. As the seasons passed, the cubs grew strong and fearless, their roars echoing across the plains alongside his own. The lion knew he would not live forever, but through them his legacy, and that of his kind, would endure. And so, the guardian of echoes became not just a protector of the past but a beacon for the future. His roars continued to shake the earth, his presence a constant reminder that even in the face of change and adversity, the spirit of the wild could never be silenced. His story, like the stories of his ancestors, would live on, carried by the winds, etched into the land, and forever burning in the hearts of those who dared to listen. As the lion's pride grew, so too did their influence across the savanna. The land seemed to breathe again, revitalized by the unity of the animals and the harmony they began to rebuild. Streams flowed stronger, grasslands thrived, and the once fading herds grew in number and strength. Yet, the lion knew this peace was fragile. For every season of renewal, there came whispers of threats on the horizon. New hunters, larger machines, and the relentless advance of humanity. One dawn, as the sun broke over the distant hills, painting the sky in shades of crimson and gold, the lion stood atop a rocky outcrop, his silhouette commanding. Below him, the savanna stretched wide and vibrant. But his keen eyes caught sight of movement on the far horizon. A plume of dust rose, betraying the arrival of something foreign. He recognized it as a convoy, humans, their vehicles rumbling like restless beasts, their purpose unknown but undoubtedly tied to the disruption of the delicate balance. The lion growled low, summoning the members of his pride. By now his companions were many. The wise elephant, who had become the keeper of the land's oldest secrets, stood by his side, her tusks gleaming like ancient ivory. The swift cheetah crouched nearby, her golden eyes sharp and vigilant, ready to scout and warn. The cubs, now nearly grown, moved with youthful energy, their muscles rippling beneath their tawny coats. Together they were more than a pride, they were a force of nature, guardians of the savanna's soul. The convoy drew closer, and with it came the hum of machinery and the acrid scent of fuel. The lion and his allies moved swiftly, tracking the humans without being seen. The humans began to erect structures, tall towers of metal and glass, surrounded by fences that cut into the land like jagged scars. The lion watched from the shadows, his golden eyes blazing with quiet fury. These humans were not simple hunters. They were builders, invaders who sought to transform the wild into something it was never meant to be. Days turned into weeks as the lion observed their activities. Machines tore into the earth, displacing burrows and uprooting trees. The animals of the savanna grew restless, their natural rhythms disrupted by the noise and chaos. The lion knew that this was a battle unlike any he had faced before. He could not fight machines with claws and teeth, nor could he face an army of humans alone. He needed the strength of the savanna itself, the unity of every creature who called this land home. The lion roared into the night, his voice a summons that carried far and wide. Across the plains, animals paused and turned toward the sound. The elephants rumbled in response, their calls echoing like rolling thunder. Birds took flight, their wings painting the twilight sky in vivid patterns. The smaller creatures, meerkats, jackals, and even snakes, moved through the grasslands drawn by the call of their guardian. By the time the moon rose high, the lions' gathering was complete. The savanna stood united, a vast army of life ready to defend their home. Together they launched their campaign. The swift cheetah led daring raids, darting through the camps and scattering the human supplies. Elephants used their immense strength to topple fences and block machinery, their sheer power and unstoppable force. The birds became messengers and distractors, their coordinated flights confusing and frustrating the invaders. Even the smallest creatures played their part, burrowing under foundations and sabotaging the humans' efforts in ways they could not comprehend. The lion at the heart of it all was both commander and warrior. He moved through the chaos with unparalleled grace, his roars rallying his allies and striking fear into the hearts of the humans. Despite their advanced tools and technology, the humans found themselves overwhelmed by the sheer will of the savanna. The land itself seemed to rise against them. Storms rolled in, torrential rains turning their camps into quagmires, as if the earth were rejecting their presence. But the battle was not without cost. The lion's pride faced dangers at every turn. The younger lions fought bravely but bore the scars of their encounters. The elephant, wise and strong, was wounded while protecting a herd of gazelles. The cheetah, swift as she was, narrowly escaped the traps set by the humans. Each loss and injury weighed heavily on the lion, but he pressed on, knowing that their sacrifices were for something greater. As the days turned to weeks, the humans began to falter. Their machines broke down, their morale dwindled, and their numbers thinned. The savanna reclaimed its dominance, its resilience proving mightier than any human invention. Finally, one dawn, the humans abandoned their camp, retreating under the watchful eyes of the lion and his allies. When the last truck disappeared over the horizon, a profound silence settled over the savanna. The lion stood atop a hill, his mane rippling in the breeze, and let out a roar that echoed for miles. It was not a roar of triumph, but of warning, a declaration that the savanna would never bow, that its guardians would always rise to defend it. In the days that followed, the land began to heal once more. The scars left by the humans faded, replaced by the vibrant life that had always defined the savanna. The lion's pride grew stronger, their unity an unbreakable bond forged in the fires of conflict. The sacred grove thrived, its ancient tree standing as a symbol of the resilience and power of the wild. The lion, now older and wiser, continued his patrols, but he no longer walked alone. His pride, his allies, and the spirits of his ancestors walked with him. He had become more than a guardian. He was a legend, a living embodiment of the savanna's unyielding spirit. And though he knew his time would one day come to an end, he also knew that the echoes of his legacy would never fade. They would live on in the roars of his kind, in the whispers of the wind, and in the heart of every creature that called the savanna home. As the seasons turned and years passed, the lion's legend spread far beyond the savanna. His name was carried by the wind, spoken of in hushed tones by animals in distant lands. Tales of his bravery, wisdom, and the unity he forged reached forests, deserts, and mountains. The lion had become more than a king of his domain. He was a symbol of hope for all creatures who longed for harmony and freedom. Despite his age, the lion continued to lead with unwavering strength. His mane, streaked with silver now, was a testament to his enduring spirit and the countless battles he had faced. He knew, however, that the world was changing faster than ever before. Humans were relentless in their expansion, and the threats to the wild were evolving in ways even he couldn't fully comprehend. The fences were returning, stronger and more advanced, and the machines grew larger and more destructive. One day, as the lion rested under the shade of the sacred tree, a visitor arrived. It was a young lioness, her amber eyes filled with determination and curiosity. She had traveled from a faraway land, drawn by the stories of the Guardian of Echoes. She carried news of her own, In her homeland, a vast desert, humans were poisoning the waterholes and driving animals to extinction. She had come seeking wisdom and guidance, hoping to learn from the lion who had defied the odds. The lion listened intently to her tale. He saw in her the same fire that had burned within him when he was younger, the same unyielding desire to protect the wild. He realized that his role was no longer just to fight for his land, it was to inspire and empower others to defend their own. He shared with the lioness the knowledge of the sacred grove and the ember of remembrance, teaching her the importance of unity, strategy, and resilience. Together they devised a plan. The lioness would return to her homeland, but not alone. She would take with her a group of animals who had proven themselves as fierce protectors of the savanna. They would serve as her allies and teachers, helping her rally the creatures of the desert and forge a new alliance. The lioness left with a renewed sense of purpose, her heart filled with the wisdom of the guardian. As she departed, the lion felt a deep sense of fulfillment. He had not just passed on his knowledge, he had sown the seeds of a greater legacy. The lioness's mission marked the beginning of a new era, one where guardians of the wild would rise in every corner of the world, united by a shared belief in the sanctity of nature. The lion's own battles, however, were far from over. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon and painted the sky in fiery hues, a new threat emerged. A massive convoy of humans arrived, accompanied by towering machines that gleamed like steel monsters. These machines were unlike anything the lion had encountered before, robotic, relentless, and seemingly impervious to the tactics that had worked in the past. The lion gathered his allies once more, but this time the battle felt different. The machines tore through the savanna with cold efficiency, their movements devoid of the fear and hesitation that humans had shown. The lion fought with all his might, his roars shaking the earth, but even he began to feel the strain of age. In the heat of battle, the lion made a decision. He realized that brute force alone would not be enough to stop this new threat. The savanna's true strength lay not in its physical power but in its adaptability and interconnectedness. He called upon every creature, from the tiniest insects to the largest elephants, to work together in ways they never had before. The insects swarmed into the machine's inner workings, jamming their gears and circuits. The birds attacked from above, blinding the machines with precision strikes. The larger animals created barriers and diversions, using the land itself as their ally. The battle raged for days, and slowly the machines began to falter. Their invincibility was an illusion. Even the most advanced technology could not withstand the relentless ingenuity of the wild. When the final machine fell, the savanna erupted in a chorus of victory. But the lion, battered and weary, stood apart from the celebration. He knew this victory had come at a great cost. The lion returned to the sacred grove, his body heavy with exhaustion. The symbols on the ancient tree glowed softly as if welcoming him home. He lay beneath its sprawling branches, the memories of his life playing out like a vivid dream. He saw the faces of his ancestors, the battles he had fought, and the creatures he had inspired. He felt a profound sense of peace, knowing that he had done all he could for his land and his kind. As the first light of dawn touched the horizon, the lion let out one final roar. It was a sound of defiance, gratitude, and love, a roar that echoed across the savanna and beyond. The animals paused, their hearts heavy with the knowledge that their guardian had passed. But they also felt his spirit, woven into the very fabric of the land, eternal and unyielding. The lion's legacy lived on in the hearts of those he had touched. The savanna thrived, its creatures united by the lessons he had taught. In distant lands, new guardians rose, inspired by the tales of the guardian of echoes. And in the sacred grove, the ancient tree stood as a monument to his life, its symbols glowing brightly, a beacon of hope for generations to come. Years passed, and the savanna continued to flourish, its inhabitants thriving under the unity and balance the lion had instilled. Though the great guardian of echoes was no longer physically present, his spirit seemed to linger in the land. His roars could still be heard in the thunder of storms, his power felt in the rush of the wind, and his wisdom seen in the resilience of the animals. The sacred grove became a place of reverence, where creatures would gather to honor the lion's memory and draw strength from his legacy. Far beyond the savanna, the lion's influence continued to spread. The young lioness who had sought his wisdom returned to her desert homeland and became a leader in her own right. She rallied the creatures of the arid plains, teaching them the lessons of unity and strategy that the lion had imparted. Together, they transformed the desert into a sanctuary, driving out the invaders and restoring the fragile balance of the ecosystem. In the forests, mountains, and even the oceans, similar movements began to take shape. Stories of the Guardian of Echoes became myths, passed down through generations. They spoke of a lion who defied the odds, united the wild, and reminded the world that nature's strength lay in its diversity and interconnectedness. These tales inspired creatures everywhere to rise against oppression and destruction, forming alliances that transcended species and borders. One day, an unexpected visitor arrived at the sacred grove. It was a human, a young girl no older than 15. She carried no weapons, only a notebook filled with sketches and writings about the savanna's creatures. Her eyes were wide with wonder as she approached the ancient tree. The animals watched her warily, but she made no threatening moves. Instead, she knelt before the tree, tears streaming down her face. The girl was different from the humans the savanna had known. She had come not to conquer but to learn, to understand the beauty and complexity of the wild. She spoke softly, her voice trembling as she told the animals of her dream. A world where humans and nature could coexist, where the stories of the Guardian of Echoes could inspire her kind to protect rather than destroy. The animals, sensing her sincerity, allowed her to stay. She spent weeks in the savanna, observing its rhythms and learning from its inhabitants. The sacred tree seemed to respond to her presence, its symbols glowing brighter each night. She recorded everything she saw, her notebook filling with stories, drawings, and lessons. When it was time for her to leave, she promised the animals that she would share what she had learned with the human world. True to her word, the girl returned to her people and began to speak of the savanna's wonders. Her stories captured the hearts of many, igniting a movement among humans to protect the wild. Her book, titled The Guardian of Echoes, became a symbol of hope, spreading the lion's legacy to a new audience. It inspired conservation efforts, laws to protect endangered species, and a growing respect for the natural world. Back in the savanna, life continued to evolve. The younger lions of the pride grew into leaders themselves, carrying forward the values of their predecessor. The sacred grove remained a place of unity, where animals of all kinds gathered to celebrate their shared heritage. The lion's spirit, though unseen, was felt by all, a constant reminder of the strength that came from harmony and resilience. As the years turned into decades, the savanna transformed into a beacon of hope for the planet. It became a symbol of what was possible when creatures, whether animal or human, chose to work together. And though the lion's time had long since passed, his story endured, whispered in the wind, etched into the earth, and carried in the hearts of all who believed in the power of the wild. The Guardian of Echoes was more than a lion. He was a legend, a force of nature whose legacy would never fade. His roar, though no longer heard, would resonate forever in the soul of the savanna and beyond. Generations passed, and the world around the savanna began to shift in profound ways. The stories of the Guardian of Echoes grew into an eternal legend, woven into the fabric of not just the savanna but the collective memory of the world. Animals across distant lands revered the lion's tail as a guiding star, while humans, once considered the greatest threat, began to change. The young girl's book, The Guardian of Echoes, had sparked a revolution among humanity. Schools taught the story to children, emphasizing the importance of balance and respect for nature. Her words inspired leaders to create vast protected reserves, banning harmful practices and dedicating resources to restoring ecosystems. Organizations bearing the lion's name worked tirelessly to undo the damage wrought by centuries of neglect. It seemed as though the lion's legacy had found its way into the hearts of even those furthest from the wild. Yet, the savanna itself remained the true keeper of the lion's spirit. The sacred grove became a sanctuary for wisdom and renewal. Animals from across the continent made pilgrimages to the grove, drawn by tales of its ancient power and the energy it seemed to radiate. The tree, now surrounded by thriving vegetation and vibrant life, became a living monument to the lion's enduring legacy. Its glowing symbols, once tied to the guardian himself, now shone as brightly as ever, as though they were alive with the memories of the land. One fateful season, a new phenomenon emerged. The savanna began experiencing unprecedented changes. Rain patterns grew erratic, the winds grew fierce, and the earth itself seemed to rumble with unease. Animals gathered at the sacred grove, looking to the elders for answers. The elephants, who carried the oldest memories, spoke of cycles and shifts in the land, but even they admitted this change was different. Something was stirring beneath the surface, something ancient and immense. A new guardian began to rise from within the pride of lions. A cub born under a sky painted with the shimmering colors of an aurora, a rare and mystical event in this region, seemed destined for greatness. From birth, this cub was unlike any other. His coat shimmered with golden hues that seemed to catch the sunlight in impossible ways, and his eyes glowed with an intensity that mirrored the sacred tree's luminous symbols. The animals whispered that he carried the spirit of the guardian of echoes within him, reborn to guide the savanna once more. The cub grew swiftly, his strength and wisdom surpassing that of any lion before him. He spent countless days at the sacred grove, drawn to its mysteries. When he roared, the earth seemed to vibrate, and the symbols on the tree glowed brighter. The other animals began to look to him for leadership, recognizing in him the same qualities that had made the original guardian a legend. The cub, now a powerful young lion, understood that his purpose was tied to the changes sweeping the savanna. He began to lead expeditions to the farthest reaches of the land, seeking answers to the disturbances. Along the way he encountered new allies, an aged tortoise from a distant desert, a cunning pack of wild dogs, and even a massive python who claimed to have lived through centuries of change. Each brought unique knowledge and abilities, and together they began to unravel the mystery. They discovered that the savanna's turmoil was not natural. Deep beneath the earth, ancient forces were awakening, forgotten energies that had lain dormant for millennia. These forces were tied to the balance of the world itself, and their awakening was both a threat and an opportunity. If guided properly, they could restore the planet's equilibrium, but if left unchecked, they could bring destruction. The lion, now hailed as the Echo's heir, realized that his task was far greater than protecting the savanna. He needed to unite not only the animals of his land but also creatures and allies from distant realms. The tortoise, with its vast knowledge, spoke of ancient networks of life across continents, underground rivers that connected ecosystems, migratory paths that spanned the globe, and even long-lost alliances between species. The Echo's heir roared across the plains, summoning not just his pride but messengers to the forests, deserts, and mountains. Birds flew great distances to spread his call, while rivers carried whispers of his plea to aquatic life. The world responded in kind. From the icy tundras came polar bears who brought the wisdom of surviving in extremes. From the dense rainforests came jaguars and sloths, bearing stories of resilience and adaptation. Even the seas sent their representatives, whales whose songs carried the weight of ancient knowledge. The sacred grove became the center of a gathering unlike any the world had seen. Animals of every kind stood side by side, their differences forgotten in the face of a shared purpose. Together they worked to channel the ancient forces awakening beneath the savanna, using their collective strength to guide the energies toward healing rather than destruction. The young lion led the effort with the courage and wisdom of his predecessor. He drew upon the lessons of the Guardian of Echoes, understanding that unity, strategy, and balance were the keys to overcoming any challenge. The animals worked tirelessly, their efforts culminating in a night of unparalleled wonder. Under a sky illuminated by auroras and shooting stars, the energies of the earth surged forth, not in chaos but in harmony. The savanna glowed with a brilliance that could be seen for miles, a beacon of hope for the entire world. When the dawn broke, the land was transformed. Rivers flowed stronger, vegetation flourished, and the balance of life was restored. The young lion, though exhausted, stood tall at the sacred grove, his golden coat shining brighter than ever. He let out a mighty roar, a sound that echoed not just across the savanna but through the hearts of every creature who had answered his call. The echo's heir had fulfilled his destiny, proving that the spirit of the guardian of echoes would never fade. His actions ensured that the savanna and the world beyond would thrive for generations to come. The legend of the guardian grew even richer, a timeless story of courage, unity, and the unyielding power of nature. And in the sacred grove, the ancient tree stood as a silent witness, its glowing symbols a testament to the enduring legacy of the lions who had safeguarded the heart of the wild.